Tonight, we start near the southern border. Within the past few years, 3 videos shot in Arizona were leaked to the public. They reignited the conversation about UAPs and border security. We've investigated 2 of these cases before. Here is the latest clip. April 14th, 2021, east of Tombstone, Arizona. It's shortly after 11 p.m. and an agent with the Department of Homeland Security is tracking an A-10 Warthog plane. He's operating a forward-looking infrared camera, or FLIR, mounted atop a truck. The A-10 appears silhouetted because with this camera, hot objects are black while cooler objects appear white. The leaker didn't elaborate on why this plane is flying over Arizona or why a DHS agent would be filming it. But it's in our hands because nobody expected what happened next. A spherical object appears to be chasing the fighter jet. Like the A-10, the object's heat signature is also black hot. But when the agent changes to a different setting, the UAP shows up like a bright orb trailing the A-10. At times, the light is traveling so fast, the FLIR operator has problems following it and keeping it in frame. This video remained secret until it was sent to UFO investigator Andy Marcion.
When I saw this and I realized that this was real, I understood that, what I got my hands on was a big deal.
For some, this Arizona sighting falls in line with much of what we've heard about UAPs from other government sources.
At an April 2023 congressional hearing, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the head of AARO, testified that 52% of all UAP cases it has investigated, the objects are spherical, most measure between 1 and 4 meters across. This sighting falls into all of the major categories.
AARO is the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the Department of Defense's official agency for tracking unidentified aerial phenomena. And Title notes they've seen some similarities, more concerning than others.
Kirkpatrick also presented a number of cases where spherical UFOs are seen trailing military planes. The video shows that the object is keeping up with the A-10 Warthog like it's nothing. This has led some people to wonder whether these spheres are actually aliens tracking our military technology.
There are many reasons why extraterrestrials might be interested in our military: surveillance, curiosity. One former NASA astronaut has even claimed that aliens prevented a nuclear exchange during the peak of the Cold War. So were aliens really monitoring the A-10 Warthog, or was this something else flying in the plane's airspace? After releasing the footage, Andy Marcion went to his friend David Fulch for answers. Fulch is a FLIR technician and operator who works with the exact same cameras our video was shot on. The first question is, could this be much ado about nothing? Are we simply looking at a bird?
It appears that the object is flying around the same speed as the aircraft, which is traveling about 340 to 350 miles an hour. I don't know any birds that fly 350 miles an hour.
Next, we check with Rich Hoffman of the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. If it's not a bird, could it be another object seen over the Arizona desert nowadays?
Within the last year alone, there's been about maybe 2,200 incidents reported by Homeland Security of drones being used to carry drugs across the border and into U.S. territory. However, a drone wouldn't be changing the shape. This particular object doesn't remain round. In fact, we don't know of any technology that changes shape like this as it flies.
What kind of airborne object can change its shape? Perhaps a balloon in the process of deflating? We asked astronomer and visual effects artist Mark D'Antonio whether or not that theory is full of hot air.
Could it be a balloon? Probably not, based on the speed of its motion. It looks like it's something that's moving along under its own power, fast enough so that it can stay in the field of the A-10. Now, it's still possible it could be caught in a fast-moving wind column.
The winds and jet streams on average reach speeds of about 110 miles per hour. But if a balloon was caught in that stream, how could it keep up with the Warthog, which typically flies at 350 miles per hour? So with no earthly explanation for this object, could we be looking at something truly extraterrestrial?
It's changing its size. We don't know any craft or any objects that can do that.
Our verdict? We're calling this one a genuine UFO. And it's worth noting, we see striking similarities here to other government-released videos, like the infamous USS Nimitz Tic Tac. But let's be cautious here. We're still uncertain this object is of alien origin. In any case, Andy, keep them coming. June 19th, 2023. A photographer is strolling about the countryside in Devon, England, when a glint of light in the sky suddenly catches his eye. He grabs his camera to get a snapshot of this. A strange metallic-looking object is captured above the hills. Close up, it appears trapezoidal. Some people who see the photo claim it has what looks like rocket boosters or even landing wheels on the bottom. But journalist MJ Banayas explains that's not all.
According to reports, the man says that when he saw this object, it was surrounded by a force field, and claimed that this object shot off into the sky shortly after at 1,000 miles an hour. It's very reminiscent of sort of an old school 1950s flying saucer. It's got the rounded bottom, it's got the dome on top. In fact, it does remind me a little bit of the famous 1952 photo of the Passaic, New Jersey UFO.
In July 1952, George Stock and a friend were near Stock's home when they spotted a strange craft approaching. Stock said the object eerily made no sound, came to a complete stop, and floated about 200 feet above them. In fact, Stock said it was so close he could have shot it down with a rifle, but instead, he shot it with his camera. That photo captured what looks like a solid, metallic, disc-shaped craft in flight. It had a dome on top and was estimated to be about 30 feet in diameter. But whether the Passaic craft or this one in Devon are actually extraterrestrial, that's the ultimate question.
UFOs do exist in the sense of we cannot simply identify everything in the sky in a given moment. We do not have enough data, therefore it remains unidentified.
It turns out that extraterrestrials aren't the only ones interested in utilizing flying saucers. In the late 1950s, a company called Avro Aircraft Limited began constructing one for the U.S. military called the Avro Car. The project was eventually dropped, but perhaps these new photos can finally show us what real UFOs are made of. We begin with astrophotographer Andrew McCarthy, who has an immediate gut reaction to the photo.
My first impression is it's an authentic photo. I don't believe this was doctored in any way.
And he believes there are some revealing clues in the picture.
For one, we can see it in front of the clouds, so we know whatever it is, it's probably within a few miles away.
So is this object simply something ordinary flying in the skies above England?
Drones today can come in all shapes and sizes, but when I look at this closely, I don't see the usual telltale signs of forced struts holding propellers, so I don't think it's a drone.
Does it even look like it's something that could fly at all?
It certainly doesn't seem like it fits the profile of an aircraft, so that leaves a lot of mystery to what this object could be.
Some have speculated it's a mylar balloon, which can be formed in strange shapes like this. But physicist Matthew Shadagis isn't so sure.
It's possible that this is some sort of balloon, but I don't think that this is a mylar balloon because mylar is pretty reflective. And this is pretty dark in color. It looks to me like this could potentially be a bird or maybe a pair of birds where you have these wing-like formations coming out. But again, it's really hard to say when you've zoomed in on just a few pixels on a very large field image.
So, could it be a UFO?
I don't see any evidence of wheels or rocket boosters or force fields or anything else that has been claimed about this picture. All of those features can simply be brought on by the extreme amount of zoom on this very distant or small object, making it really hard to claim that any of these features are distinctive like cockpits or windows or things like that.
And despite the eyewitness testimony, Shadagis notes the old adage, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
It is conceivable for a UFO to zip away at a high speed. However, we only have the eyewitnesses' claim of this. We see no evidence of high speed, of course, from what is just a single photograph. So my final verdict is genuine UFO. But that verdict comes simply from a lack of information.
Our verdict? For now, without any definitive details, we agree with our experts. We've got a genuine UFO. But remember, that doesn't mean it's an alien spacecraft. So here's hoping that photographer keeps his camera handy to capture another strange object that we can identify. It's high noon on January 16, 1958. The Brazilian naval training ship Almirante Saldanha is preparing to depart Trindade Island, Brazil. According to author and historian Amy Title, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more esteemed group of men in passage to spot a UFO.
On board the ship are a number of sailors and also scientists who are going out on an international scientific mission. As the crew members gather on deck before leaving, their attention is all diverted to this thing flying nearby in the sky.
The crew immediately summons their esteemed photographer, Almiro Barrouna, and he captures a series of images that would become UFO legend. A dark gray aerial object looks to be flying over the distant mountain. Zooming in reveals what appears to be a saucer-shaped object with a ring around its center, almost resembling the planet Saturn. Barrouna claimed the UFO approached the island, flew behind a mountain peak, and then turned back around the way it came.
The crew all saw the object glowing before it turned towards Wished Peak, then it turned sharply northwest and disappeared from view. The entire encounter lasted just 20 seconds.
Immediately, Barrouna's photos became an international sensation. While some were skeptical of the photographs, their authenticity was seemingly bolstered by multiple investigations.
The photographs were studied by the Brazilian Navy's Aerial Reconnaissance Laboratory, as well as the Aerophotogrammetric Lab of Cruzeiro do Sul. They were deemed to be authentic, taken of a real event, backed up by the eyewitness testimony of military experts and personnel. They were even confirmed by the Brazilian president at the time.
In the years since, however, new details revealed about the incident have drawn skepticism to the once bona fide evidence.
Barrouna held the negatives away from the Brazilian Navy for 2 days before surrendering them. He had even cut some of the photographs off of the end of the film roll. It's unclear whether he tampered with the negatives before handing them over or whether there was something else on the film he didn't want seen. And in August of 2010, a Brazilian TV show claimed he was known to have created hoaxed photographs before.
Both in spite of and because of the controversy, the incident continues to be one of Brazil's most famous UFO encounters, and that's saying something.
The Brazilian UFO archive spans 60 years and has more than 700 documented and researched UFO cases. And of all of them, this is one of the most legendary cases in all of Brazil's history.
Brazilian newspapers ended up printing Barrouna's photographs. He took 6 pictures in total, but the alleged saucer only appeared in 4 of them, supposedly because he was bumped by sailors during the excitement of the event. Something tells me our experts are just as hyped up to analyze this case. Visual effects and astronomy expert Mark D'Antonio has seen these photos before. In fact, he credits them for his getting into ufology in the first place.
I grew up with this image. When I was a little kid, this was my gateway UFO.
First, D'Antonio addresses the theory that this is simply a terrestrial aircraft.
Aircraft at the time had very specific shapes, and it doesn't match any of those configurations for 1958.
Astrophotographer Andrew McCarthy reviews another common theory that this object is simply a bird.
It's shaped somewhat similarly to a bird in flight, but birds actually tend to absorb more light. So they would show up as a shadowy object against the relatively bright blue sky. So in this case, I think we can safely rule out it being a bird.
But examining the shadows further alerts McCarthy to a detail he considers suspicious.
When you look at this object closely, you see that the top and bottom of it are roughly the same brightness. If this was a flying object, the top of it would be illuminated by the sun and the bottom would be in shadow. Since this object doesn't seem to obey the laws of physics, I have to start looking at other explanations of how this managed to get on film.
So are these legendary photos a hoax after all? One theory is that airbrushing techniques were used to create a hoax, but McCarthy disagrees.
Airbrushing film is basically like painting whatever you want directly into the film negative, which of course would be easily detectable by the Brazilian Navy. So it may still be a hoax, just not airbrushed.
If there's no smoking gun, how do we decide if it's real or a hoax? D'Antonio says the answer is a little more nuanced than that.
There's no way to look at this and definitively say it's a hoax or definitively say it's real, because there's problems with each of those determinations. But if these are a hoax, you know what I say? So what? Why? Because these are images that many people grew up with, and they learned to be critical thinkers as a result of them. My entry into the field is in part because of this photo. If it's hoaxed, it brought in a lot of people into ufology, and we were better for it.
Our verdict? For now, this remains a genuine UFO. All we really know is that a group of scientists claim to have seen a glowing object in the sky at the same time. We don't think the negatives were airbrushed, but we still can't explain the anomalous light and shadow. This flying object could be real, it could be fake, but until we learn more, it remains unidentified. July 2015. Hector Garcia is hanging out in his neighborhood in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He is enjoying the summer weather when he suddenly notices something bizarre floating in the sky above him.
It's a cloud with lights in it, moving weird.
The aerial object can best be described as a shape-shifting, semi-transparent cloud-like mass. It hovers and follows a set of power lines until it drifts out of sight behind homes. The cloud's seemingly guided behavior has led to Hector's video going viral, racking up over 1 million clicks on YouTube.
Some people looking at this see that inside this amorphous blob, there seem to be glowing or shimmering lights. And it looks like this object is intelligently going to a destination.
Now, at first, I figured this could just be some floating debris. After all, Aero, the Pentagon's UAP identification team, said that's just exactly what many sightings turn out to be. But look at those twinkling lights. Tidal says the object's behavior reminds her of an alleged ET phenomenon known as cloud cloaking.
This is the theory that a UFO will hide itself either within a cloud or mask itself to look like a cloud so that it can hover inobtrusively.
Some say that aliens use cloud cloaking for one primary reason.
The idea is that the UFOs aren't just using clouds as cover. They're cloaking themselves so they can observe us and gather data on us without our realizing it.
And Tidal adds that another decades-old photo could show this may not be the first time aliens have utilized this technique.
On November 17th, 1974, H. Laursen of Viborg, Denmark, saw something strange in the sky.
Laursen took out his camera and captured this strangely shaped cloud that appears in the shape of a classic UFO, with almost tentacle-like appendages underneath it.
This caused some to wonder, is this actually a naturally occurring object or something alien cloaking itself to look natural? Ultimately, his sighting was investigated by the Danish Air Force, but no one could ever determine what exactly it was that he saw. Is this sighting in Philadelphia also something that we've just never seen in the sky before? Could this be definitive evidence of UFO cloud cloaking?
I've never seen no like that.
NASA's Earth Observatory estimates that nearly 2/3 of Earth's surface is covered by clouds at any given time. That's a whole lot of space for UFOs to be hiding in. But which one do we see in this video? UFO? Cloud? Both? Neither? Our experts are ready to clear things up. To begin, could this incident have simply been faked? Physicist Matthew Shadagas thinks the answer is not in what we see, but what we hear.
The eyewitness seemed pretty surprised and natural to me.
It's a cloud with lights in it.
So from their behavior, it's probably not a hoax, and it's probably someone who is genuinely surprised by what they are seeing.
So if what we're seeing is real, is it something that's supposed to be floating in the sky? Could it just be a cloud?
Initially, I thought this was a cloud off in the distance. But when clouds experience a lot of wind, they will disperse, oftentimes lose its shape. This is not what we saw here. It looks exactly the same at the end of the video as it does in the very beginning of the video.
If it's not a natural phenomenon like a cloud, could it be something found closer to Earth?
There's a dead giveaway moment right here where the object looks pretty close to a shopping bag, and I think I can make out what look like handles. And then to me, that looks like a wind gust picking up and blowing a plastic bag.
And if it is, in fact, a plastic bag, Shadagis believes he can easily explain why it sparkles.
If it's something like a plastic bag, this could simply be light from the sun refracting in weird ways.
But watch as the object moves past the TV antenna and behind the houses. If it is a floating shopping bag, it would have to be an extraordinary and unusually large one. For Hernandez, the plastic bag explanation also doesn't make sense, especially given the weather conditions that day.
It's off in the distance, and within 10 seconds, it's right on us. So it might be moving at over 50 miles an hour, but the winds this specific day were fairly light. They were 5 to 10 miles an hour. It's a clear day, high pressure over the region. It just doesn't make sense with what we're looking at here.
But that doesn't mean Hernandez thinks this is alien cloud cloaking technology.
If there was an alien species that was trying to develop an object to blend in, they would obviously have to know that clouds don't look like this normally. If it's a UFO that is practicing cloaking, it's not doing a good job.
So if it's not a UFO, what is it?
Whatever this is, it's changing direction. It takes a nosedive, but before it reaches the ground, it goes horizontally. And this behavior leads me to believe that there is some control that something or someone has over this object. And I don't have an explanation to that. It remains unidentified.
Our verdict? This is a genuine UFO, though not necessarily the extraterrestrial kind. This object doesn't move like a cloud, and we're not exactly sure what it's made of or how it's staying aloft. This feels like one of those cases where you will need to step up and help us out. So if you know anything about this incident, please reach out.